From 1822 to 1823, the Lord Mayor of London, Sir William Highgate, led a campaign for the pier to be constructed. The reasoning behind this was to attract more visitors to Southend, with pleasure boats being able to dock at low tide. On the 14th of May 1829, the first Pier Act received the royal assent. On the 25th of July of the same year, the Lord Mayor of London, Sir William Thompson, laid the foundation stone of the first section of the pier. By June 1830, the 600-foot wooden pier was opened. In 1833, it was soon realised that the 600-foot pier was still too short to be used at low tide, so by 1833 it extended to 1800 feet. In 1848, after numerous more extensions, the pier gained the record of the longest pier in Europe by 1848, with the length recorded at being 7,000 feet. During the 1850s, the railway reached Southend, and the influx of visitors from London took their toll on the wooden pier, so plans were made to renovate it. By 1875, the Southend Local Board purchased the wooden pier for the princely sum of £10,000, and by 1887 they decided the best plan of action to maintain the pier would be to replace it with an iron structure. In 1889, pedestrian traffic was allowed on the pier for the very first time. In 1890, the first electric tramway installed by Cromptons of Chelmsford became operational. In 1897, the first iron extension was built to accommodate the increased number of steamboats that wished to call. And then in 1898, the new pierhead was formally opened. In 1908, the upper deck to the pier extension was officially opened. It had 600 permanent seats and room for 500 deck chairs. The lower deck had room for 6,000 to 8,000, useful in bad weather and when the steamboats called. There was also a bandstand decked out in white and gold, plus 6 shops. In 1921, the concrete motor schooner Violet crashed through the pier between the last shelter and the pierhead. This caused the piles to break for around 160 feet. It was only following this mishap that lights were installed along the length of the pier. In 1927, extensions to the upper deck were completed, and in 1929 the Prince George extension was opened by His Royal Highness Prince George, Duke of Kent, bringing the pier up to its present record length. In 1935, the pier celebrated its centenary. It took place in this year rather than 1930, as it was a date taken from when the Admiralty began to include it on its chart and was part of the Festival of Light. Between 1939 and 1945, the pier was closed during the Second World War and was used by the Royal Navy as a military base. In 1950, at the pierhead, a restaurant called the Dolphin was built out of the scrap and timber left by the Navy. This joined the other main buildings such as the Sun Deck Theatre, the Solarium Cafe, as well as amusements and a hall of mirrors. In 1959, a major fire destroyed the Pier Pavilion, which was located at the shore end of the pier to the seaward side of the sea wall. A 10-pin bowling alley was then built on site, opening in 1962. In 1971, after a child injured itself, a detailed structural survey of the pier was carried out. This led to the walkway being rebuilt between 1974 and 1979. In July 1976, a fire destroyed most of the 1908 pierhead, including the cafes, theatre and amusement arcades. The Coast Guard station and radar training school were also amongst the casualties, but despite this disaster and the later termination of the electric railway service, the pier was not closed to the public. In 1980, the council proposed to close the pier, but this was met with enormous public outcry. It was agreed to keep it open until a permanent solution could be found, and was managed on behalf of the council by the Lecorne brothers. In 1983, a grant from the Historic Buildings Committee meant the much needed repair work to the pier could commence. A new railway and rolling stock could be bought. The total cost of the 1984-86 reconstructions was £1.3 million. Her Royal Highness Princess Anne inaugurated the new railway service on the 2nd of May 1986. In the early evening of June the 30th, 1986, the MV King's Abbey sliced through the pier between the old and new pierheads and severed the lifeboat slipway, causing irreparable damage to the boathouse. 6 cast iron piles were shattered, causing 2 spans of main girders to collapse and a third span to be supported at the end only by twisted steelwork. This left a 70-foot gap in the pier, and a lightweight bridge was installed to restore essential electricity, water and telephone services, followed by a temporary pedestrian footbridge to restore full public access to the pierhead. Permanent repairs followed, and in 1989 a new cafe and toilets were opened on the stem extension. On June the 7th, 1995, the bowling alley was destroyed by fire. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries, and there was no damage to the Shore Railway Station or the Pier Museum, although storerooms and workshops were destroyed. All services to the pierhead were cut, access to the walkway was severed, and some 30 metres of the railway track were damaged. However, services were reinstated and the railway track repaired in time for the pier to reopen to the public only 3 weeks later. Pedestrian access was reinstated for the start of the 1996 season. In 1996, the pierhead superstructure was blasted, cleaned and painted. In 1998, the fire-damaged area at the shore end was rebuilt by French Kier Anglia Limited. In 2002, RNLI Lifeboat Station and Gift Shop was officially opened in June and was funded by the RNLI. In 2003, the new pier entrance was completed in the summer, costing £1.9 million. On the 9th of October 2005, a fire severely damaged much of the old pierhead, including the railway station, pub, restaurant, gift shop and toilets. Much of the wooden planking was destroyed, but the main iron structure was largely undamaged. Heat from the fire was so intense that the pier railway tracks buckled and trains could only run to about 15 metres short of the old station. The Southend lifeboat was deployed to transport the first firefighters to the scene. The pierhead station was destroyed in the blaze, so a replacement with 2 platforms was constructed to take the pier trains as close as possible to the area where the blaze took place. In 2007, Southend Pier was named Pier of the Year 2007 amidst hot coast-to-coast competition. The world-famous landmark was awarded the title after scooping the most votes from members of the National Piers Society, founded in 1979. The new station platform and office was officially opened in the summer by the Worshipful Mayor of Southend on the 16th of September 2009. Between 2009 and 2010, the Pierhead Design Contest winner was unveiled. Renowned Swedish-based landscape architecture firm Y Arkitekter which has also won awards for other maritime architecture projects throughout the world, clinched the top place with a design called Sculpted by Wind and Wave. In 2010, the pier underwent improvement works to the walkway and entrance area, which enhanced the experience for all visitors. In 2011, the pier was briefly closed following a collision by a barge. High winds caused the 80-foot barge, which was being used by contractors to install new fire mains, to crash into the pier, breaking 3 piles, which resulted in a 3-week closure. In 2012, the pier suffered further damage in February after being struck by a fishing boat a quarter of a mile from shore. The impact damaged 2 piles, cross piles, and a section of the deck. On the 17th of May 2012, the new cultural centre was lifted onto Southend Pier. The unique £3 million cultural centre was designed by White Architecture, working in partnership with London-based architects Sprunt, and was constructed off-site at Tilbury Docks. From there, it was lowered onto a barge and transported along the Thames. The 170-ton structure was then hoisted onto the pierhead at high tide using a 400-ton marine shear leg crane. Contractors Kia oversaw the off-site construction and were tasked with the challenge of managing the big lift. The building was gently lowered at a rate of 2 mm a minute to mitigate impact damage to the 100-year-old cast iron piles that support the pier. On the 19th of July 2012, the Cultural Centre officially opened its doors. The centre is capable of seating 185 people in its main hall. It houses a 40 square metre artist studio and is an approved premises to marry. It is home to the Peerhead Cafe, a unique eatery which is open every day and offers amazing views over the Thames Estuary from its covered terrace. On September the 19th, 2012, Southend Pier Railway was entered into the Guinness World Records for being the world's longest at 1,889.8 metres long. On the 17th of July 2013, His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent ceremonially renamed the iconic Southend Pier Cultural Centre the Royal Pavilion. The Duke unveiled the plaque bearing the building's new name after officially opening the new RNLI Lifeboat House on Southend seafront. Once the new name of the Royal Pavilion was revealed, the Duke of Kent was first person to sign the visitors' book. Southend Pier has held a number of royal visitors, including the Duke's father, His Royal Highness Prince George, who officially opened the Prince George extension in 1929. In August of 2016, Metal Culture introduced the Wish You Were Here art installation on the pier. The project took over the old bowling alley site on the shore end of the pier and features 10 beach huts, which takes visitors on a journey through the heyday of seaside holidays. In 2013, Jamie Oliver and Jimmy Doherty started production on their popular television show Jamie and Jimmy's Food Fight for Channel 4 in the autumn. Filming takes place in the old cafe at the end of the pier, which they revamped for the filming. Each week a different celebrity was invited to join them and cook for specially selected members of the public. Thanks to Jamie and Jimmy, the pier has welcomed such celebrities as Gary Barlow, Orlando Bloom, Goldie Hawn and many more. At the beginning of June 2016, the pier train service was suspended when a routine structural survey detected fractures in several pile caps, which are an integral part of the pier structure. On discovery of these fractures, the pier trains were stopped immediately for the safety of its visitors. Initial reports suggested the work needed would only take a week to repair, but on closer inspection this turned into a few months. The train service was resumed once all the hard work had been completed in October 2016. In spring of 2017, Southend Pier was presented with the Transport Trust's Red Wheel Heritage Plaque. The Red Wheel scheme highlights important sites of transport heritage with bespoke commemorative plaques backed up with detailed websites.